I'm not the group leader. I've got my boss above me, but I manage everything with the job projects and things. So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a nice distribution of staff for students.
Yeah.
That's lucky for the students.
Yes. Yeah, they're not stuck doing everything. Yeah. So we have, the staff have been there, some of them 20 years, so they know the lab inside out and everything that they're doing. So the students get a lot of support because I don't go in the lab anymore, so I don't do a lot of hands-on supervision in the lab. So.
Yeah. No, that's all good.
Yep. We got here 10:58. Give it another minute or two. I'm just going to move my stuff down. Do you want to pop your mic thing on now? And I'll just introduce you. All right, everyone. Just quickly before we start today, I just want to give you an overview of today's session. So not a lecture, as you probably know. We're going to start off today's session with a bit of a talk by, this is Joanna Houlihan. Hi. She is from Evolve Scientific, which is sort of a recruitment agency for scientists and technicians. So she's going to give you a bit of an overview of how a company like hers could be useful for you, especially now as you're about to be graduating with your science degrees. So once Joanna's talked to you and given you some information, you're of course welcome to ask questions of her. But after that, I will just give you a really brief overview of what you can expect in the exam. And then at the end of that session, of course, you can ask me questions, or you can ask more questions of Joanna, or if you'd rather come down and ask one-on-one questions, you can do that as well. All right, so it's 11 o'clock now, so I will hand over to Joanna, and then you can start. I just realised you know how to change slides and everything.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay.
Yep.
Down and up.
Yes,
Down and
it's pretty
up.
straightforward,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
and
you.
your mic's on, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That's all good. Everyone can hear me? Oh, cool. So, as I said, my name's Joanna. So, I work at Evolve Scientific. And I just think it's important, like I know that you're all about to finish, and when I was at uni, we didn't really get exposed to, I guess, maybe what after can we do with our degrees or things like that. So, I thought it was important to go through and tell you a bit about us, tell you about recruitment in general and how it works, and I guess give you some tips on your resume and maybe some tips on interviewing as well. But as you'll see, like everything that I say today, like later down the track, when or if we do end up working together and helping you find a job, I'll reiterate all the process and everything along the way as well, so you don't have to remember anything. You can focus on your exam. But so I work for Evolve Scientific. Basically, we are a nationwide company. We were founded in 2010. We have offices based in Sydney, Brisbane, here in Perth, Melbourne, and we do recruit in Adelaide as well. So I do know that obviously some people travel interstate for studies and things like that. So if you do end up somewhere else in Australia, then we can still help you with everything. Recently, we did get acquired by NES Furcroft. So I don't know if you would have heard of them. They're a global recruitment company. So theoretically, they're going to help us expand even further beyond Australia as well. Our specialty is the science and technical space. We recruit in all types of industries, so your pharmaceuticals, your food, environmental, it's Perth, so we do mining, things like that, and a wide range of roles. NES more specialises, I guess, in that engineering kind of oil and gas space, renewable energies, things like that. But basically, all of us here, and no matter what line of science we did, we all have a degree. So whether it's chemistry, micro, food science, you've got immunology people, pathology, we all have a degree, and we all have post-degree experience as well in one way or another, whether it's more on the academic track, more on the industry pathway too. But ultimately, all of us here I guess, pride ourselves on that knowledge because it allows us to get a better understanding of your skill set. And yeah, that means, I guess, the lab techniques and things like that that you're exposed to, but also the transferable skills, right? And which you might not even be aware of at this stage of how that can be useful in industry. But having that background ourselves, it means that, yeah, we can, I guess, hone in on the transferable skills as well as obviously the practice ones. So just to give you an example, one of my colleagues, so she has you can see she's got a Bachelor of Science, she did biochem and biotech. She then, this was in New Zealand, she then went on and worked at Hills Laboratories. So she utilised her skill set in the laboratory she got from her degree, but also just the transferability skills, and she went and worked in a water testing area in Hills Lab. They're like a third party testing company, so they'll get samples from external companies that people within Hills Laboratories will then test. So she was in the water team, so she would have been doing your basic kind of wet chem testing, so things like pH and like titrations and things like that, UV vis, the smaller instruments. She then carried on and she moved to Melbourne and she worked at Hella Spice. So they make kind of think like your packaged rubs or seasonings, that kind of thing. So she's kind of gone all over the place. And I guess that's why I'm here as well, is to show you that yes, you have your degree in a specific thing, but it does not mean that you are restricted to that area. You can utilise that in a bunch of different industries. So she started water testing and now she's in food. So she was a quality laboratory technician. This was a really cool position because it was kind of a bit of both, and I will go into types of roles that you can get as graduates, but there are some roles. There's QC, which is more in your laboratory testing analysis, like in the lab. You can also go into it's called quality assurance, so QA. It's more of, I guess, if you maybe the lab wasn't your thing and you really liked, this is where your transferable skills will come into play, but you have a good attention to detail, you like documentation and things like that. So it's more on that side of things. You're kind of the police officer, I guess, of the industry. Nothing will go in or out without your sign-off. So this Q quality laboratory technician kind of did a bit of both. She did some testing of the products that they made, but she also did the documentation side, which is a really good type of role for graduates who are kind of unsure of which area. And then she worked with us, so that's cool. And so she came into recruitment. My story is a little bit different. I went more down the academic path. There's a few of us in there that went that way. So I did my PhD in chemistry. I then went on and did a postdoc, and I was lucky in my postdoc in the sense that it wasn't just lab-based. My supervisor was he was a part of other things, so he was on the road all the time, international, things like that. So I was essentially running that lab while he was away, but also got to take on the lecture courses that he was running. And so I think within that I realised I actually really liked the people aspect of things and helping people to achieve their goal and things like that, being able to, I guess, alleviate stress on your end, which I know you're probably feeling, one, for the exam, and two, thinking, okay, what do I do after I'm finished with my 3-4 year degree? So then, I moved to Melbourne and I saw it's scientific and recruitment, and I thought, okay, cool, I can use the knowledge that I have from my degree, the transferable skills I got from my degree, and I can use it and meet people like you guys and help you, I guess, in your career footpath. So I was in Melbourne and I was recruiting there, and then when we opened up our office here in Perth, I've moved over and the team lead for this site. So what I want to run through with you, because everyone is like, what is recruitment? How does it work? How much money do I have to pay? All of these things. No one really, at this point, it's easy. No one really understands recruitment. I definitely didn't when I was back in uni. But basically, if you think about when you're applying for jobs, the first thing that goes into my head is, what does that title even mean? And you go down the responsibilities, and most of us will go, okay, I can do that, oh, I can't do that, I won't apply, or something like that. I'm sure everyone does that. We're here to help you in the sense we can explain the role to you. We interview you in person, and I say interview, but it's nothing to be scared about. There's no right, wrong answers. We go through what you did in your degree. Essentially learn about what part of your degree you really like doing, right? Because there's always different aspects of the degree. See what path you're interested in the most and where you want to go down. We do some behavioural questions. Behavioural questions are more real life scenarios. We'll go into them in a sec as well. But they allow us to get an understanding of who you are, what's important to you in a team, what's important to you in an environment. And, you know, ultimately all of us here want to place you where you're going to be happy and want to stay long term. There's no point putting you somewhere where you're not going to be happy because you just leave and not enjoy it. And so that's not the point. But basically the difference is that rather than you applying for a job and just submitting your resume, so a piece of paper among however many other candidates, we take your resume and we submit it, but we also get on the phone to our client, so for whatever company it was, and we sell you. So maybe things that could be missed on your resume, things like your personality, right? Like your can-do attitude, or things like that are so desirable in graduates. If the biggest tip I can give you as a graduate when you are interviewing or applying for jobs, it's to never underestimate the power of your personality. And that's not to say there's a right personality either. That's what I mean with behavioural questions. There's no right or wrong. There's different companies, different teams, everything like that. But it's the can-do attitude, it's the wanting to learn, even if you haven't done those skills or techniques before. Like I have placed people with physiology degrees, right? Have absolutely never done chemistry before, but my client, and we established relationships with them, they trust me, and he had the attitude where he was going to go in there and work hard and pick it up, and I placed him as a QC analyst, so in a chemistry lab, which he had never done. So never underestimate your attitude. You don't have to tick all the boxes to apply, and yeah, I go for it. But the other thing is that once you've submitted your resume and we give you a call and we interview you, it means you're on our system and we can call you as jobs come up. So as a job comes in, a lab tech, a QC, a QA, whatever it is, we can call you and say, hey, we've just had this role come in, explain to you all the duties, give you all the details, and we can go from there. So you wouldn't have to come back in or anything like that. And yeah, it means it's more of a personal approach. We're trying to find jobs that are suited for what you're telling us you're looking for, your skill set, obviously in line with what the client's looking for. So we get the perfect pairing for you guys, and again, like you want to stay long term. So that's recruitment. It doesn't cost you anything. The client comes to us, any money is from their side. It's nothing for you guys. It is all completely free. It is a really good opportunity, and I do wish it was, I guess, mentioned to us in our time of being at uni. So that's why I think it's really important being here and letting you guys know that. This is kind of, I guess, what I've kind of already said. Speed's just because we can get on the phone and nag our clients and say, come on, they're applying for jobs, they'd be really good, everything like that. They're not having to sift through the hundreds of applicants they've had looking at these individual papers. We've presented them to you, your personality, your skill set, everything like that. We understand client candidate needs. That comes down to the fact that we interview you, we listen to what you're saying, what you're passionate about, what you're looking for. We do the same thing with our clients, and we ask them what they're looking for, the outline of the job, the skill set they're wanting. And then we sell you, but that's what I said. I get on the phone, I tell them things that might be, missed by a reading of your CV, things that they wouldn't get from your CV, that aspect. And I think the most important approach that we have is that we are with you from start to finish. So we will interview you, we'll call you when jobs come in, we'll do all of that. But even then, if you proceed to the interview stage with the client, we're there as well. So we will help you prep as best as we can. Any kind of questions that I guess we've had from past experience with them, I'll tell you. We'll always tell you and get you as best prepared as we can. We'll give you guidance on the types of questions to prepare for. That includes technical, behavioural, general questions like that. And again, even if there's one job that looks good for you, obviously we would get your preference on what job you prefer, but it doesn't mean you just apply for one job. We can submit you to a range of different jobs, right? Okay, so I kind of covered it a little bit, but these are kind of examples of jobs I think that you would look for. Sometimes we do advertise them as things like graduate microbiologist, graduate chemist, graduate food scientist, those types of things, which will generally be relating to these types of roles. They're all entry-level roles. So the key thing is, even when you're reading the responsibilities of a job, if it's something like a lab tech, a lab assistant, or it's saying it's open to graduates, it means they're going to train you on absolutely everything. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that's the attitude that really counts, because they're going to put in that effort and train you. So you don't have to have ticked off using every single thing that's on that ad. Lab assistant can be, that's usually kind of if you want to get your foot in the door to industry and help out in the lab. If you maybe are unsure if you enjoy lab work or things like that at that stage. Lab assistant's more of that entry where you will just be kind of helping out, maybe making up solutions, doing general housekeeping, just getting the lay of the land, working under certain conditions. Because when you go into, I guess, industries, there's certain protocols that you have to follow. So there'll be like GMP, I don't know if you guys would have heard of that. It stands for Good Manufacturing Practices. So that's like a protocol the manufacturing industries have to follow. There's GLP, Good Lab Practices, lab spaces. But then you also have different levels. So if you guys have learned about aseptic techniques, like in clean rooms and things like that, where you have to sterilize and nothing can go in or out, you can't breathe really, but everything like that. So there's different levels of which you can go into, and doing lab assistance, even though it might be maybe a little bit mundane at the start of housekeeping, it gives you exposure to those protocols, which is really, really good to have. Lab tech can go either way. Some lab techs will be a bit more like a lab assistant, but some will also do some testing. So, and depending on what area you're in, micro, immuno, chemistry will dictate the types of testings that you do. But a lot of lab techs, it will be more of that kind of initial testing. So like, I don't know, chem will be the wet chem, IR, UV vis, viscosity, density, things like that. Micro will be kind of like your general plating, like spread plating or gram stains, and stuff like that. And then you've got your ELISAs and stuff for the immuno side. Quality control officer, I put officer there because it can kind of go either way again. You're kind of just stepping up. So you've kind of got lab assistant as the kind of entry. You've got lab tech as the step up from that, where you will be exposed to some testing usually. And then you've got quality control. And quality control can end with whatever. It could be quality control chemist, quality control microbiologist, quality control analyst, where maybe you're doing a bit of both. That is solely a lot of, that will be analysis as well as like some reporting and things like that. But again, all of these roles that I've shown you are entry-level roles. There's obviously some that will, they'll say I want 2 years experience, but these will all be options for you as graduates to go into. The quality assurance officer, that's the cool one I was telling you about with the split. It's kind of the lab as well as the documentation side. So you might, I guess every industry, although they might be different, so say you might go into food or pharma or mining, they all follow the same kind of job specs. They've just got different products. That's why your skills can be used across a range of industries that you wouldn't have even thought about. So you're in food, so you'll be testing raw materials. When I say raw materials, it's like your ingredients or the starting materials you use in labs. You'll be testing final products. And so that would be once you've put them all together and made that final product. And then there's also in-process checks, which will be in between the raw materials and final products, just along the way of making it. Every industry in the manufacturing or lab, those areas do that. And so they need micro people, they need chemistry people, they need different types. And so that would be in food. You'd have obviously food products, or I work with a mineral-based company that makes like cement blocks out of different kinds of stone, like limestone or other kinds of products. We work with beverages, which start from making the syrups and things like that, to obviously making the drinks, which might be your fizzy, your juice, or water even. And we also work with like salad companies and pharma companies across Perth and across Australia. Okay, so I really want you to know that your skill set can be utilised across any industries, right? You're not restricted. So with resumes, look, realistically, we wouldn't send off your resume if we think that something should be added or something, wasn't quite right for the role that you're going to apply for. We will always come back to you with feedback on maybe how to improve it before sending it off, depending on the type of role. But every CV needs the key things. So your contact details. You'll be surprised at the number of people who forget to put a phone number and email address on their resume. So please put that on there so we can contact you. You need your phone number, your address, your email address, and your name. They're the essentials. The summary, honestly, it's an abstract of your CV. It's a summary of who you are as a person. So in addition to the skill set that's shown in your resume, who are you? What do you bring? What kind of, traits do you have? Like, are you a hard worker? Are you eager to learn? Are you passionate about certain aspects? That kind of thing. And you can tweak it, depending on the role, for like a summary of, towards a lab tech in a food company, towards a lab tech in a pharma company. But again, we're there for that aspect. Skills summary. So skills, largely it will be laboratory skills, any kind of, software skills that you might have. You can include those. I'm always hesitant on skills because always put them in, but you don't need to be an expert on everything that you looked at, right? Because you have been exposed to however many techniques, however many instruments. You don't need to be an expert on all of those, right? I encourage putting ones on that you're comfortable with and explaining, because if you put that on your resume, it means someone's going to ask you about it. Okay, so you need to be comfortable in, explaining what you did with that. Again, you don't have to be an expert, but what experiment were you doing when you were when you were using that technique? What were you using it for, right? But I wouldn't list everything, because then it just puts pressure on yourself. That's unnecessary. You don't need it. They're going to train you in everything. Again, it's attitude. But obviously put the ones that you're comfortable in using, whether that's the smaller instruments you've been exposed to. So again, IR, UV, maybe PCR, instruments like that. Qualifications, your qualifications, the degree and stuff that you've done. Work experience. Oh, this one I love on a resume if I've seen you've worked at like McDonald's or, any retail, any customer service. I love that. If you've worked at McDonald's, I'm like, yes, good, nice. Because that automatically tells me that you can do customer service, you have interpersonal skills, you can work in fast pace. So please don't remove that. The number of people who remove things like McDonald's or Hungry Jack's, Subway, I love it, keep it. Because it shows so many transferable skills, and I know that my clients like that too. Publication, interests, hobbies, things like that. You can do with that what you will. Again, it's just showcasing a bit of your personality when you put like hobbies or interests and things like that in there. And then references, available on request. We will never contact your references without approval. We do pre-hire forms where you can tick yes or no. Even if you tick yes, we're going to call you, because no one wants that on their conscience if you didn't ask. Okay. Sorry, nearly done. So with interview tips. So once you've gone with us, we've presented you to the client, they go, yep, cool, we want to interview that person. Then we're with you again to help you with interviews. Interviews, I always categorize kind of into 3 parts. Know your company. So what company is it that you're applying for? Okay, know the role that you're applying for, right? So print out that position description or job advertisement, know the role that you're going for. Again, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. We can explain things to you. But the most obvious questions that people will ask, but also the hardest to answer on the spot, if you haven't thought about it, is why do you want to work for my company? Why do you want to do this role? Because if we don't prepare for that, they're the ones that we just end up rambling and end up saying random things because we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't actually think about that. They're the key things that you need to be aware of: your company and the job, what interests you about the role. After that, I then categorize it into technical questions. So they will ask you about your previous history, your previous experience. So within your degree, what did you study? What kind of laboratory techniques or instruments or things like that did you use? They'll ask you about that. The best advice I can give you in terms of that is for every instrument or every technique I've used to think of a real life example of when I used it. 1, it'll stick in your brain more because you did it. And 2, anyone can kind of Google what something is for. It shows the client or whoever you're interviewing with that, you know, you remember doing it, you knew what you were doing, okay? So if you did a titration, okay, yeah, I was doing that to figure out the unknown concentration of whatever, you know, the specifics of the type of experiment that you were doing, okay? And then the last step is behavioural questions. So we'll go into that next. The behavioural questions, I would say, are the hardest because we don't really think about them. But if we prepare for them, they're all good because it's literally just about your experience. So behavioural questions, I'll just skip. We'll come back. Behavioural questions are, they're split. Some are just basic question answers. So if you've ever had an interview before, the most common ones you'll hear is, give me your top 3 strengths or give me a weakness. Those are just question answers. Okay, so top 3 strengths you think that you have. In addition to your skill set, what is it? Are you a hard worker? Are you good at problem solving? Do you have good communication skills? That type of thing. There'll be question answers, but the other part will be scenario-based questions. So the classic will be, give me a time you've had conflict with someone, and how did you go about communicating with them to resolve it? Okay, that's a very common answer. So you can see heaps of different ones here. Tell me about a time you made a mistake, conflict. Tell me about a recent stressful experience you've had and how you dealt with it. All of these questions can be asked in slightly different ways, but they're all kind of looking for that overall same thing. So with the conflict, they might ask it a bit different, but they're looking for how you communicate with people, right? So we say when it comes to scenario questions, you should use the STAR method. I don't know if any of you will have heard of the STAR method. No? Yeah? Okay. So mix, but it stands for situation, task, action, and result. So basically define the situation. Where were you? Were you at work? Were you working in a team? Was it your supervisor? Was it a colleague in one of your out of uni jobs? Whatever. Define the situation and the task that you needed to achieve with that person. So were you working in a team on a group assignment? Okay. And then perhaps then you go into, I guess, perhaps you guys had a differing opinion on how to, execute a part of your assignment, right? That's a classic. There's always, in a group setting, there's always differing of opinions. So you would define the situation. You're at uni, you're working on a team assignment doing this. One of the group members said they wanted to do it this way and go into specifics. And then the other one said, and then I said I wanted to do it this way. And then the action you took to resolve that. Right, so how did you communicate with them in order to, come to an agreement or resolve that conflict? And then I think the key one that people forget about the most is the overall result. So when I say that, I'm meaning, okay, well, so how was your relationship with that person after you communicated with them and came to an agreement or, you know, maybe you ended up doing what they wanted or you wanted. How was your relationship with them? Okay, so the key thing of scenario-based behavioural questions is being specific. So thinking about an exact time in your head that you can remember of when that scenario happened, okay? And so again, the examples of like made a mistake, an exact time you remember making a mistake, right? What happened? What was the next steps that you took after you made that mistake? Did you go tell your supervisor? Did you try and hide it? Those types of things. Yeah, so I'll just quickly finish. I'll go back to the slide. I'll be 2 seconds. When preparing for an interview, so like I said, you've kind of split into 3 bits: the why the company, why the job, the behavioural, and then the technical. So about your degree, about your experience, and then the behavioural, more about you, letting them know who you are as a person, the types of environments, teams you like working in. When it comes to technical, they might also do these aspects. So these are examples of types of technical questions they might ask you. If you've said you've done pipetting, they might ask you, they can't really, I guess, you've used a pipette. Buffer and solvent preparation, what kinds of buffers did you prepare? This is the aseptic techniques, have you done that? What's your understanding of aseptic techniques? Then you've got other areas, so I guess more advanced instrumentation like HPLC, GC, ICP, if you guys have done any of that. The more analytical side, so this is again your transferable skills. You would have written reports, I'm assuming, in your laboratory components. You would have probably analysed data that you'd looked at from the types of techniques or instruments that you've used, which we wouldn't think about. Like as students, we're like, oh yeah, we're just doing what we're told, we're just doing this. Where can that be used? That is used because you can explain your results and interpret those, right, which is important. And then you've got the quality safety down the bottom. So these are the things I was talking. So there's NADA accredited. They're just different levels of certification that different companies have. So if you're looking at a job description and it says it's NADA accredited, or it says it's ISO, and there's so many different ISOs with lots of different numbers after them, or it says it's GMP, or it says it's GLP, before your interview, look those up. You don't have to be an expert, but just have a general kind of understanding of what those are, right? Like what those protocols is, like what it means. Again, not an expert. Just it shows initiative that you cared to look up the type of protocols that they follow, right? But yeah, those are my top tips. Again, you don't have to remember any of this really, because once you're with us, we go through all of it anyway. I just want you guys to have that understanding of what recruitment is and how we can help you, even if you don't really know exactly what it is that you want to do, because who does by the time they finish their degree. But yeah, you have us and we can help you, and we can go through jobs with you, and we can figure out what you're looking for. We can help with your CV, we can help with the interview prep. So I just want you guys to know that you have a place to ask questions, even if you just want to give us an email, or I can leave my cards as well. You can give me a call, anything like that. So yeah, I think that's everything.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Does anyone have any questions at the moment?
You mentioned like some jobs will have like 2 years experience.
Mm.
Do you think it's still worth applying for those positions?
So I am a definite mind of never say never, but don't get disappointed if it's an actual, because every client has a wish list for sure. If they put 2 years, their wish list is 2 years. But again, this is what recruitment's really good about, because we have established relationships with our clients to actually get on the phone and ask them that. So if you called me and you said, hey, Joanna, and we'd interviewed and I knew your background and everything like that, you said, hey, Joanna, I've seen this role, it's 2 years experience, do you think it's still worth putting my CV forward? I would 100% get on the phone to the client and I would say, hey, look, I've got this person, they've got this, their attitude, they just really want to learn and grow, and I think they'll be really good for the company. They will then tell me. I'm a never say never kind of person, because you just don't know. Depends on the candidate pool at that point in time, whether they get those 2 years that they're looking for or not. But again, that's what we're here for. So if we advertise as 2 years because that's what they've said. I'd still call you and say, if I knew that they were flexible on that, and say, worth a shot, I think. But, yeah, apply, but just don't be disappointed if they do want the 2 years.
Alright, if there's no more questions right now, I'll quickly go over some information about the exam, and then if you just want to take a seat for now, and then you can always ask Joanna some more questions after, at the end, if you like. I don't have a mic. Maybe I'll try. That's right. You keep that one. There's heaps of mics here. I'll just grab something different. I'll use this one here. If I can figure it out. Where are we? Can you hear me through this one? Oh, yes, that's on, isn't it? Okay. All right, guys, I'm not going to take very long. So I'm sure you all know when the exam is, hopefully by now. So 9 a.m. on 31st of October. And of course, it's worth 55% of your unit mark. And please just double check this information in case there's any changes or anything, or maybe I've got it wrong. It's your responsibility to make sure this you go to the correct exam at the correct time. So this is from the cover page of your exam, and I'm showing this to you because every year some students, or too many students, make silly mistakes which makes my life so much harder, and you don't want to do that, do you? Because it makes me upset. So I'm going to point out a few important things here. So 2 hours for the exam. So there's going to be 7 10-page answer booklets that are provided for you. And also please bring a UWA approved calculator to this exam. Please bring it, you will need it for some of the questions. As I said, 50% of the final unit mark. So the reason there's 7 answer booklets is because there's going to be 7 sections. So same as the first semester exam. Each section contains 2 questions. So you will either answer question A or question B from each section. So 7 questions in total to answer. Only answer either A or B. And this is the really important one that people always get wrong, and it makes my life so hard. So please use a separate answer book for each section, because if you put all your questions into one answer book, how is it going to be distributed to all the different markers? As you know, different academics gave you lectures on, so they need individual booklets. So please use a separate answer book for each section. That's the big one here. And of course, put your name, student number and question number. That's important too, to put your question number on the front of the answer booklet. Also, on page 3 of the exam, you'll see the allocation of marks for each section. And there's also a blank page there for notes if you want to write any notes. So again, similar to the first semester exam, PHAR3320 exam, it's going to be a mix of short answer questions, and there'll be some more essay even type questions. There's not going to be any multiple choice questions. So when trying to think about how much information is required for each answer, just look at the number of marks for that question, and make sure you construct an answer that is very clearly understood and put information in a logical sequence. And really importantly, just answer the question, because sometimes students just throw in all the information they can think of, and that's an examiner does not want, a marker does not want to read that. It makes their life hard, and you will get penalised if you just put everything down. You just answer the question. As I said, you can use a UWA approved calculator, and I will be putting up practice questions on LMS by the end of the week. Sorry, I had hoped that would be ready by now, but yeah, definitely by the end of the week I will have all those questions up. If I haven't, or you can't find them, just send me an email and I will let you know what's going on. And I've just listed out here the different sections of the exam. So, and also how many marks and how much time approximately to spend on each of these different sections. So it's about 2 minutes per mark, approximately, a little bit more than 2 minutes per mark. So these are all the 7 sections, you know them. So just when you're thinking about studying and how much time you put to each of these sections, you might want to think about how many marks they're all worth. And that's it, really. This is going to be one of, I presume for many of you, one of your very last exams ever as an undergraduate. So I'm wishing you all the very best of luck for the exam as well as your future endeavours. So if anyone has any questions about that, I think it's pretty straightforward, but let me know. No? Okay, cool. That's it. Oh, I've gone back to the beginning again. Okay, well that's everything I wanted to say. So if you have any further questions for Joanna, you're welcome to come down and or me or whatever, just come down and ask questions. Otherwise, I will see you guys on Thursday for the last MCQ. Great.
I hope so. Sometimes I don't even realise. Sometimes I get things but I'm like, what did I say?
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks.
I have a question for the exam venue.
Oh.
Mine was allocated to the STEM PHAR lecture, but I can't find it online.
That's a good question. I've never heard of that. I never go onto main campus these days.
I'm not sure whether it's in the main campus or in the campus.
I'll try and have a look it up for you. But yeah, maybe if you send me an email, is that where? I know there are different venues. Like some students are allocated to different venues for whatever reason. So,
Because I did some look up on the Googles and I think I can just ask UW.
yeah, probably better to ask them because they will know exactly where it is. I'll be as stuck as you because I'm not familiar with the campus. Sorry. Thanks. Hi.
We're supposed to have our sum to at 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Can we come to the 10 a.m.?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Yep, no problem. Okay.
I can graduate this semester. Do you think it's okay if I'm trying to apply for job already? How do I put in my CV?
Oh, so you go to the Perkins is where you need to go. Just the concierge for the Perkins.
So,
get there
my number
5 minutes earlier. So you can sign
and my email's here. So you can just email me through your CV if you want, and I can give you a call and we can talk through what you're looking for and things like that. But yeah, no, it's definitely not too early. Like, I just recruited for it's a 4 or 5 week lab assistant role that didn't require a degree. So we get roles as well that don't require completion of a degree. Should have probably mentioned that, but we do. So tell your friend.
I'm trying to apply, but I was like, what should I put in my CV?
No, you can put it in, so just put the date you started or whatever, and then expected completed in this.
Yeah.
But, because when's your last exam?
The 6th of November.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Yep. But, so if you want to email through your CVs, then I can give you a call.
Thank you so much for your help.
That's okay.
Thank
No
you.
worries. Thanks, have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Cheers. See you guys.
No, I should go find parking in the city.
Oh,
Which actually would be worse than actually here. That's
probably will be hard. Yeah.
That's okay. Well, thank you for letting me come out.
That was really good.